What's up, y'all? This your girl Lola with Lola's Chronicles, and today I got interviewing with me Cool Colas. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Okay, so as she said, my name is Cool Colas. I am an author, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm an activist, and I am a Black media analyst on social media as well too.
Okay. So when did you become an author?
I wrote my first book in 2021, self-published it. So I have one book out at this point, and but I've been writing since I was young. So yeah.
What's the name of your book?
Rim Curse of a Billionaire.
Okay. So what is
Mhm.
the book about?
So it is a realistic fiction fantasy book. And the book is about this billionaire, and he has this curse that's put on him, and he has these really intense dreams. And so, with these dreams that he has, he goes into like these mazes and these puzzles that he has to solve. And usually, when he falls into this trance or this dream, it's usually when he's doing something in his like real world experience. So, he may, for example, be at his office and he falls asleep, or driving in a car, he falls asleep, and he has these dreams and he has to figure out the puzzles and in order to move to the next dream so he can eventually break the curse. Throughout the book, he has three different types of dreams. Regular dreams, which I just talked about. He has these things called fantasies, which are like they give him power-ups in his like for his nightmares and for his dreams. And then he has nightmares, which are advanced versions of dreams where it's like a life or death thing. So whatever happens to him in his nightmare happens to him in real life as well too.
Oh, that's interesting. Sounds interesting. How did
Thank
you
you.
get off into writing fantasy?
So for me, I have always been a blerd, which is a black nerd. I've always been into a lot of fantastical type of things. I've always been a fan of comics. I've been a fan of video games. I like some anime. I'm not a real big anime head, but I like all of that type of stuff. So I said to myself, I wanted to create content that mirrored some of the things that I like and the things that I enjoy in the movies and television shows that I watch and in the video games that I play. So at some point I was like, I want to kind of create my own thing. I looked at series like Harry Potter and I was like, okay, I need to create my own content and something that is going to be, part of my brand. So this is just the first thing of many things that I'm going to be creating with my brand. So actually this book specifically is actually the first of a trilogy.
Oh,
Mhm.
sounds very interesting. I have to check it out. Who would you say is one of your favorite animes?
Dragon Ball Z for sure. It's mainstream, but I like the concept and I'm a big fan.
You're a big fan of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got off into Dragon Ball Z, but my cousins and stuff they used to love when they come on, and they used to be tuned in. So uh,
Mhm.
that's good. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Being a speaker, what are some things that you have spoke about, speaking engagements, like whatever some things you've done with that?
So most of the things that I've done so far have been on social media. Eventually, I'm going to translate that to doing like real projects and things like that in person and whatnot. But for the most part, I've been doing lives. I've been doing a lot of interviews and things like that where I talk about what I do with my brand, specifically on social media, like on Instagram.
Yeah.
And what most of that has been around are the big three E's of what my brand is tackling. So that's a combination of education, entertainment, and empowerment. So that's why I call them the big three E's. And
Okay.
what my brand essentially is about is me trying to re-educate people, talking about Black history, talking about being pro-Black, and then introducing that into the different lore that I'm creating. So into my books, and eventually I'm going to be creating comic books as well too, and games at a certain to a certain extent as well. So I want to be able to get people acclimated to a Black man who is pro-Black, creating content for Black people. So a lot of the things that I speak about are related to just current events, and then me also looking at what's happening in media now, like the TV shows I watch, and then the movies I watch and things like that. And I'm looking at how are these things anti-Black, and how are these things not serving Black people the way they should, and how is my brand eventually going to give people what they've been asking for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, we need more people like that, creating content for our Black people, because you don't see many of us involved, or you don't see many of us with those type of platforms giving us information that we need. I
Yep.
watched a few of your videos and you said you're a pro-Black media analyst.
Yep.
How did you get off into that?
So interesting story, but so I want to talk about the transition between like when I started on Instagram and then like what's going on now, and that kind of leads into the story.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
basically, yeah, but basically, on Instagram, I wanted to talk about my brand and the things that I really enjoyed. When I first got on, I just was talking about giving Black people a voice, specifically Black men in writing, and that's really it. Like I had a couple of advice, like quotes and things like that. And I talked about my writing journey here and there, but it was never like really any big substance or a gimmick or thing like that was attached to what I was doing. So at some point I had a conversation with someone who I consider a friend at this point. And, he in a kind of blunt way basically said, I like the fact that you're, putting stuff out there, but I don't really see your passion. So when this guy said that, I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, because
Right.
I'm the passion. Now, he was right and wrong, but this is the thing that he was right about. I wasn't really putting my full self out there. It wasn't really like, I don't think that's the point that he was trying to get at, but at least it made me think about how much of myself I am putting out there. And the one part I wasn't putting out there about myself was the fact that I am pro-Black. Like I'm into Black empowerment. I'm into speaking up for Black people and telling the truth. So at some point I said, while I'm creating the things that I know, I'm going to put out there for people to see, why don't I talk about the things that I have a problem with, as far as the media that I enjoy, TV shows, movies, comics, things like that, and show how anti-Blackness is very prevalent in what we enjoy, and how we need somebody who is trustworthy and is going to put out content that's empowering and still entertaining at the same time, that tells the truth about history and also doesn't make you feel disrespected as a Black person. So at some point I'm like, let me kind of look at all the tropes and all the issues and things like that that I see in media and things like that, and tell y'all why it's an issue and why what I'm doing or going to be creating is going to be better, and why it's also important for us to be informed and understand what it is that we're consuming.
Okay, check you out.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you get a lot of negative feedback from your analysts?
Absolutely. Oh, all the time. Now, lately, it hasn't been a thing. And I think the reason why it hasn't been a thing is a couple different reasons. Number one is because I've been doing a good job of filtering like who comes in and who comes out. Like I've been following people who enjoy the content that I put out there. And I've been connecting with people who are more like-minded, because that's the whole vision of my brand itself, connecting with the like-minded, not necessarily changing hearts and minds, but connecting with the like-minded, or those who want to get the game. Now,
Exactly.
yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing too is that, I have a habit of, I wouldn't say that I'm not bullying anybody on social media or anything like that, but I definitely roast. And
He said, I definitely roast.
definitely
I
roast.
hear that.
So like when people come on social media, it's not because I'm trying to, just make fun of people all day, but the idea is that I want people who follow me and believe in what I'm saying, because, want people to kind of get the game and get information from me. I want them to understand how to respond to people who are non-constructive, because I consider myself to be a constructive person, and how we should look at the people who have some of these negative responses. Again, some of the stuff is constructive, but it's very few. Most of the time when people come on to disagree, it's something else. So we got to kind of look at that. So I kind of have to separate that idea of just wanting to just block everybody. And sometimes I have to turn that into a lesson and teach people and show people where the issues are, and even how when we view certain things, or even like when people bring up certain things, how we kind of get defensive and where that comes from as well too.
Okay.
Mhm.
So being able to do that, it does it take like a lot of time consuming research and analyzing things that you see? What is it? Or is it new movies that come out? I had seen a few of your videos and I see like you did a video on They Clone Tyrone. Is it just based off your opinion or
Mhm. So it's factual because of the fact that I'm talking about something that's very like it's something that nobody who's black can avoid, and that's anti-blackness, white supremacy, and the history of black people.
yeah,
So the idea of what I'm talking about is there's parts of it obviously that are my opinion, but the husk of it is factual, and a lot of my opinions are based on facts. Now the basically what I'm getting at is I talk about history and I relate history to what we see today. And I also use prime examples as to how these analysis came to be. So when I create an analysis, that's basically what it is. It's me like looking at it and looking at parts of history and showing proof. So in other words, let me kind of put it in a way that makes a little bit more sense than what I said. I feel that the best way that we can ever look at a lot of these situations that happen that are related to anti-blackness or disrespect or just not putting black people on in the appropriate way is a three-part system. The first time you look at something and it's anti-black or negative, it is maybe a potential accident. And the second time it's a potential coincidence. The third time it's a pattern in practice. If you look at like a lot of the situations that take place, they show you how you can analyze certain situations because when it comes to racism, white supremacy, and things like that, nobody's ever going to really just tell you blatantly that's racism, that's white supremacy, but you know what it
exactly.
means and you know how it exists and how it may show up. You know that it's covert, you know it can be overt as well too. So what you have to do is analyze it because nobody's going to say it because it's practiced in common law. So I guess I'm trying to basically show that the concept of white supremacy and racism and just like our history, those are all facts. But the opinion part comes in with my analysis and how all of these things like end up connecting with one another.
Which is true because, and
Mm-hmm.
it, like I was saying, that is so good that you're doing this because we're in a day and time now that they're trying to shut out our history.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to block off what our people have been through,
Mm-hmm.
and make it look like what is not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to have people that's willing and not afraid to speak up on the history of that without allowing them to erase what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think that it's important for somebody who is not afraid to do it as well too. There's a lot of people who are afraid of getting canceled. There's people who think that something bad is going to happen to them if they speak up, and that type of thing. And what we really need to do is to be like fearless and to just be the example of the change that we want to see. But we can only do that by spreading truth and telling the truth and then creating something that's constructive that people can not just believe in, but people know is trustworthy as well too. And that's what I'm all about.
Yes, and the main thing is supporting each other,
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
put each other down, just
Mm-hmm.
because they're misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever got somebody that at first was like, oh man, he ain't talking about nothing, but then they come back and be like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
see where you were coming from.
I have had that happen before a couple times actually. I've had people who like vehemently disagree with me on something or another, and then they come back on some of my other like content or posts, and they're like, "Okay, well, I definitely disagree with this. I've disagreed with you in the past." I even had somebody say something like that, but they did it kind of in a passive aggressive way. They were like, "I've disagreed with you in the past before, but." Today I got to say that you're right, although you gave me a dissertation about why you were right. And I'm like, okay, like you was wrong, so that's why you said all that. But
Exactly.
you just don't want to admit it. But I've seen people do stuff like that quite a bit, or people who said, like, I didn't really see where you were coming from at first, but now I see what you're saying now that I'm looking at these things that keep happening and whatnot. So they're waking up, really. That's what it is. They're waking up.
Yeah. Do you tend to get people that are not of color that tune in?
I have some non-black followers. I have some white followers. I have some quote unquote people. I hate that term, but like people of color. I have like other people outside of being black and outside of being white who like look at my content. It's not really a whole lot though.
Not
Mo-
really a whole lot.
yeah, most of the people who like watch my content, who are into my content and like follow me and just like really understand what I'm saying are black. Like I would say probably like 98%, 98, 99%.
So how did you come up with this nickname you have?
So cool colas. I got it. It's a long story actually. I feel like it's a name that it kind of called out to me. I feel like it was like a calling almost. So let me just start with colas. The name Colas is actually part of my first name, my actual name, which is Nicholas.
Okay.
So when I was in 10th grade, I had this Spanish teacher, and she asked me and everybody else in the class to come up with a nickname, like a Spanish nickname. And so I'm in Spanish class, like my teacher's telling me this, and I'm like, I don't identify with nothing Hispanic. Like, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I'm like, let me just do something real quick. Let me just, say Colas because that sounds Hispanic. That's kind of how I felt back then. So I started using Colas as my name. And so it just kind of just stuck with me and it kind of had a ring to it. Now ended up putting cool in front of the name over the years as I kept using that as part of my name because of the fact that I saw myself as a person who was unique. I saw myself as a person who was authentic, and I saw myself as a person who believed in truth because those are, I think, the things that make you cool. Somebody who's a truthful, honest person, somebody who's a unique person, and somebody who is like authentic, like they believe in themselves, like they're self-aware.
Right.
And so what I ended up realizing was that because colas, like cola, actually there's a fruit in Africa called like the cola nut fruit, and
Mm.
it's a red fruit. And what's interesting is red's also my favorite color. So I was like, okay, this is really like kind of working out. Then I actually researched one day the African zodiac, and I'm looking into this, and I'm like, I was trying to see what my African zodiac sign was, and it happened to be the cola nut. It was like the last day of the cola nut. I was like, this is crazy. So I was sitting there like, you know what? This just has a ring to it. Like I just got this name like came to me for a reason. So it just stuck with me and I just kept it.
That's what's up.
Mhm.
Because when we run into those type of situations where we get signs, and it's
Mhm.
like this is meant to be what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because I keep running into the same. I see it, and it's like if you don't open your eyes and pay attention, you'll miss it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But that's what's up.
Mhm.
Uh, being a comic book creator,
Yep.
that sounds pretty cool. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So as far as comics go, I am more of a writer than I am an artist. I'm probably somewhere around a B level artist, maybe. Most people probably would say if they saw my art. But I've always had a passion for writing and storytelling. And so for me, I've always been interested in making my own comic brand because I want to have my own characters and my own storylines and things like that people can enjoy and people can find entertaining and all this other stuff. So what I have done over the years is I started creating different comic characters, and I have right now about 100 main storylines, and then I have written about 120 comic scripts. Now, eventually, what I want to do is get an artist who's going to bring all this stuff to life. But of course, that takes time, that takes money, and that takes a whole lot of other stuff. So I actually created a Ko-fi. I think that's how you say it. And I wanted to actually raise money to try to build up, enough stuff so I can actually create my own comic brand. But I actually have like all the ideas already set out, all the storylines set out, the arcs and all that other stuff. Like I have that all totally outlined, but it's just going to take time, money, and then just like a full focus on that. But because I have so many other projects and things like that going, I haven't had a chance to focus on it as much as I want to. But I mean, this has been something that's been in the works maybe like I think maybe 5 to 7 years. I've been kind of doing different comic things for my like comic brand. And I think I started actually like drawing like kind of just pictures of how I wanted these things to look maybe back in like maybe 2011. So I mean, I've been thinking about this stuff like since I was like a little bit younger than I am now.
Yeah, I say go for it.
Yeah.
I say go for it. That sounds pretty dope and interesting. I'd support.
I appreciate
You
that.
I definitely would. I've always liked comics. I used to always read them in the newspaper and comic books and stuff like that. When we were younger, we used to get the comics in the gum wrappers and stuff like that, and I found it very interesting and funny.
Hmm.
Especially if the creator, is really based on the creator and their mind frame and where their imagination is going in
Hmm.
order for me to follow. But Like I would definitely support you with that.
I appreciate that. And I can definitely like let you know about like my like Ko-Fi link and whatnot. And the other thing too is I have a page where I actually showcase some of my drawings for one of the comic books that I'm actually crowdfunding right now. And
Hmm.
that just shows you my art and then the vision behind that story and whatnot. So I have that like page that I've actually like done stuff on for a little bit as well, outside of like the Colas creative page that everybody knows about.
So growing up, have you ever got hassled for being a blerd? I love the word black nerd. I love it. I've been hearing that a lot. And I'm like, at first, I'm like, what is a blerd? I didn't understand. I'm like, and then
Hmm.
somebody was
Yeah,
telling me one day,
yeah.
they was like, you're a blerd. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, how?
Mhm.
Because I'm a writer, I'm a nerd. I am. I love
Yeah.
books, I love writing and stuff like that. So the
Mhm.
term, when I seen you say you're a pro black blerd, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got somebody in common with something in common.
Yeah, most definitely. Being a blerd is an experience. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like when you're a black nerd, it's not just you liking anime and liking comics and all this. It's like being in tune with black culture and your blackness while also enjoying those things as well too. It's like having that confidence within yourself, your culture, and who you are on top of enjoying those things. That's why it's an experience, and it's different than nerd culture, which is really corny a lot of times, and you really don't understand some of the jokes and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm going back to your question though, which was, did I really get hassled? A little bit. Like when I was in like elementary school, I did. I had people like messing with me and stuff like that. Definitely. Now, when I got into high school, not so much. Like that wasn't really a thing because I've always been somebody who I just have like a lot of different facets to me, right? There's a lot of different interests I have out there. So I never really had a problem with connecting with people for real. And I was never really like a big socially awkward person. Like I have my moments where I do socially awkward things, but overall, I've just never been socially awkward. Now, again, none of that's to justify anybody who ever did get picked on. I don't support that. But like my whole thing is, I think like when I was in middle school, when people couldn't really fathom the idea of, a black person being into those endeavors and whatnot, yeah, that was definitely like a big thing. But here's the problem with the people who I think did have a problem with, people who had interests like
Yeah.
myself. I think the biggest issue is that if you really look at history, black people have always been nerds, like from the very beginning, because our people brought math and science and all these other great things to other cultures. We actually brought that to Asians, and then we even like had these things that we brought to Europeans as well too, because we taught a lot of them about hygienics, how to bathe, and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until we tinkered with these different elements and again like nerdy things that we got
Right.
to the point where we're able to innovate certain stuff, and that part of history gets missed. So I always tell people black people have been nerds since the beginning of time. It's just now that we're realizing that that's a part of our culture.
Mm. I never thought about it that way.
Yep. Yep.
I never really thought about it. That's interesting for the way you put that. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. It's the thing is that I think people miss that because they're like, oh, that's like a thing about, that's like, acting white and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that don't have nothing to do with like acting white or anything like that. It's like, we've always been into those types of things. Blacks have always been hyper intelligent people. I mean, we really have innovated a lot of different cultures. We really, especially foundational Black Americans, we are the culture. We are.
It's so very true.
Hmm.
And we some talented people.
We are very talented. We invented everything. People just pretend like we don't.
Yep. They try to take the ideas and and they know because a lot of us don't put up that fight
Yeah.
for
Yep.
what's ours. A lot of people, as I can speak on my behalf as well. A lot of times we just put our head down and keep on moving when we should stand up and speak up for what we're doing and what we have done. That's
Hmm.
why it bothers me so much that they're trying to erase our history completely, the struggles, and they're trying to turn it around to say that slavery um was beneficial to black people because it taught us a trade and a skill. And
Hmm.
how could you say that? And it's just crazy that if we don't stand up and start teaching our children and the people around us that are black, that's not really in tune with what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
we have a chance to lose our history of period. They can't take the culture from us,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be like we didn't even exist, or the people that fought so hard for us to have the rights that we have,
Mm-hmm.
it was for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. What's interesting about something that you brought up, and this goes into something I'm actually working on right now. Right now, I'm in the process of writing my second book, and the book that I'm writing is actually about like tropes, like anti-black tropes that happen in media.
Okay.
And so the reason why I brought that up is because in this book that I'm writing, although I'm talking about tropes on TV, tropes in movies, tropes in video games, and things like that, I'm relating it to real life events. I think part of the issue is that we can't figure out why these things are happening. So part of our disbelief and the reason why, like, our culture is getting erased, our culture is getting disrespected, all these bad things are happening to our culture is because we really don't really understand how vast it is. And the thing is that our enemies, white supremacists, people who are racist, things like that, they do. And so we need to really kind of flush out why these things happen, why these things show up when you look on, certain television shows. It's really important to have these types of conversations, because once there's an understanding of your enemies, once there's an understanding of history, then, that's how you build confidence, and that's how you wake people up.
Exactly. You're so right about that. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. And I'm glad that I've started a platform to where it's informative for me as well. Having you guys come on the show and you talk about things. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying, a lot of the things that you're dropping knowledge on me right now that my eyes wasn't open to, that's making me like, okay, I want to do some research and look into this a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I want to figure out a way that I can use my platform to stand behind you with what you got going on. To wake up more black people and what's going on in reality and what they're trying to do to us and how we can fight back against it. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we are very creative and talented and smart individuals
Mm-hmm.
if we stick together and use our minds.
Mm-hmm. The
You
most.
know, and
Yeah.
I also see you're saying you're a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
So, what
I
is you have a show?
Yes, I have a podcast called the Pro Black Blerd Kingdom podcast.
Okay.
Hmm.
And where do you stream?
So I've done it through Anchor. There's something going on my Apple, but I had it on Apple for a while. I have it on Spotify. I have a YouTube channel that just broadcasts everything that I, have been talking about here. And I have one other platform, I think it's called Stitcher, that it's on as well too. So I mean, it's on a good amount. I have like one season, which is about 50 episodes out.
Okay, congratulations on that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So if somebody wanted to contact you and talk to you or even listen to your podcast, what are your social media handles and where can we find you?
Most definitely. So you can find me at Colas Creative. So Colas, then Creative. So you can find me there on Instagram. You can also find me at the same hashtag on Twitter. I'm not as active on Twitter as Instagram. Instagram is my main bread and butter. You can also find me on my website, which is colascreative.com. That actually is a new website that I'm going to be launching as well too. So that's another thing. And then I'm also on YouTube as well too, like I said, at the Pro Black Blerd Kingdom podcast. You also can find me again on Spotify or on Anchor at the Pro Black Blerd Kingdom podcast. So there's a lot of different places you can find me at. And if you go on Instagram, I have a link tree where you can find all my links to literally every single thing I do or have done.
Check you out. I'm loving it. I'm
Mhm.
loving the energy and I'm loving the fact how educated you are
Thank
and
you.
how you choose to share the information that
Hmm.
even with your analysts, analyzing things, movies and stuff like that,
Hmm.
that can bring out, details in a movie or a video or something that's going on that people haven't paid attention to.
Hmm. Most
So
definitely.
I'm loving the whole idea, and Lola's Chronicles definitely support what you got going on. You know what I'm saying? Because we need more black people standing up for each other and informing us on the things that we do not know and have not been paying attention to.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I appreciate the support too.
Yes. And y'all heard what he said. He's standing 10 toes down behind y'all, so y'all have to stand 10 toes down behind him. Hit him
Mm-hmm.
up on his links. Check out his podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Educate yourself. You know what I'm saying? United we stand, divided we fall. I'm trying to tell y'all, we have to stand up as black people. Educate yourself. And I'm loving the fact that you got going on. I can't wait to check out these comic books. I can't wait to see them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And help promote that as well.
Mm-hmm. I
And I want
appreciate
to say thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us and educating me a little bit, because you got me ready to do some research. And I'm going to be asking my questions now.
yeah.
Talking to you. We've been talking a while on Instagram back and forth, but we never got a chance to formally meet and actually talk. And I see, like, okay, I've been watching your videos and I'm like, I got to get them on the show.
Most definitely. Yeah. And I appreciate you having me on your platform and us being able to dialogue. I was saying the same thing. I was hoping that we'd eventually get to have our, one-on-one and talk a bit more and whatnot.
And I love the fact that, I'm an author and meeting other authors and seeing how we venture out and a lot of things that we got going on and how it all can tie into one thing. If we sit and support each other and push each other the way we're supposed to be, we are some very strong individuals. And
Mhm.
keep doing what you're doing. No matter if nobody wants to listen, keep doing it. Even though I know I'm pretty sure you will, even though people are going to have negative things to say because it's pro-black and they can't wait to shut down something, especially when black people are educating one another on things that's going on. So I tip my hat to you, because like I said, a lot of people are afraid
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
stand up and speak. So it takes a lot of courage to stand up and speak. Like you said, people are afraid they're going to get canceled and all that, but you'll be surprised at how many people need to hear this and want to hear things like this.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Yeah. I'm definitely standing on my square.
That's what's up. Well,
Yeah.
y'all heard it here on Lola's Chronicles. Y'all check him out. And I want to say thank you again for coming on the show. You're
Mm-hmm.
more than welcome anytime. Any topic you see me posting and you want to get on, let me know. I would love to have more black people come on my lives on Sundays and, educate each other. Let's talk about it. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? That's my quote all the time on Lola's Chronicles. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the surreal things that's going on around us that they don't want us to know, as far as educating ourselves so we can teach our children and keep our culture going and going. Because if you leave it to the outside society, not all white people are bad, but leaving it to the racists and, individuals like that and white supremacy, they're trying to shut us out. They're trying
Mm-hmm.
to erase what happened to make them look good. And I feel like it's wrong. It was
Mm-hmm.
wrong for what they did, but it's also wrong that now you're trying to completely erase all the things that we've been through, and take credit for, you know, what we got going on. Because if without us, I don't know how they'll make this world go around.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I agree with you 100% on that.
So yeah, thank you. I really thank you for coming on the show. Y'all tune in, share this live, streaming everywhere on all platforms by the morning, and we out.
All right. See y'all later.